Hello, folks. As you can probably tell by the change in background scenery, things are returning to normal around the Castle North, or Casa North, or whatever you want to call it. So thank you very much for appreciating and being understanding about my need to be elsewhere this week. So thank you very much. I don't like missing videos. You know I don't. But there we are. We're all good. And it is Feels Fridays. That is another nice, easy video for us to sit down and have a little talk about as we go through this. So, let's start with John, shall we? Who's written in to Hobby Nightmares, and he says, Hello, North. John is back again, this time with a story where my Warhammer hobby started and at the same time saved my love life. I know, it's a rare combination, alright? If this is a dude who's just written in to crow about the hot girl he's picked up, I swear, I will be skipping this. Let's see. We go back in time. A few years after the turn of the century, the internet has just started to become normal, and I was doing quite well for myself. Having fun, playing online games, and meeting people via MSN Messenger. Oh, those are the days. Those were the days. If you have been through this time, you probably have the sound of a new MSN message in your head right now. Yeah, I do. Yeah, in my head, yeah. That was girls from high school, right? It was literally girls from high school. Like you would talk. It opened up a brand new world, man. It really did. Being at the cutting edge of that, like guys texting and messaging these days, it's so taken for granted. But imagine being in a school where you had hot girls in your school, and you can't really speak to them without everyone giggling and ruining it for you. And then all of a sudden, MSN Messenger becomes a thing, and you just message back and forth, and all of a sudden, right, dude, it was like the Wild West, I did get into trouble in high school because I was messaging like 4 or 5 girls, and they found out about each other, and it didn't go very well. Again, guys, honesty is the best policy. I was 14, so I had an excuse at the time, but honesty is the best policy, always. If you're speaking to more than one woman in a romantic sense, let them all know what's going on. Yeah, I learned very young that that's not the kind of thing you do and get away with. Moving on. One of the games I played was Warcraft 3, and absolutely I loved orcs. A rock had started to roll towards Warhammer, but more about that later. On MSN, I mainly looked for female contacts and love. Of course you did. Of course, there are people who will catfish you. Fortunately, I did not have rose-coloured glasses on, and if there were too many red flags with a contact, the block button was easily clicked. Alright, so you were a lot older than I was at this time, okay. We call one of the female contacts Ginger, for logical reasons. The contact with her was very nice, and we had a lot in common. With Ginger, it came to an in-real-life meeting, and one thing led to another, as it tends to do. Over the months, I slowly discovered that Ginger and I didn't have as much in common as she made out online. Not that bad in itself. We had fun together doing things that we did, especially if I slept over. I'll leave the details to myself. One of the problems we had is that her parents were not really happy with online contacts. Very understandable. If my daughter is old enough to do her own online contact, I would be protective too. One of the things I will definitely do is let her watch a few episodes of Catfish. She can see with her own eyes that the person on the other side of the computer is not always honest. Yeah, but that thing wasn't a thing back then, right? That show wasn't a thing back then. However, once a contact has been made in real life, you already know who is in front of you. Then, it is no longer an online contact. Times were different back then, I guess. One evening, I received an MSN message from Ginger that she was sad and asked me not to get angry. My response was, well, that depends on what you're about to say to me. Of course, I knew what was going on. I was preparing for the end of my relationship with Ginger. Dude, I'd be thinking, is she pregnant? That's what I'd be thinking right now. I'd be like, no. Coincidentally, another friend was also on MSN at the time and also discussed what had happened with him. Let's call him Dave. Alright? Only after 15 minutes and when I gave the guarantee that I would not get angry, was it official. Ginger told me, alright, unfortunately, my mother told me I have to break up with you. I don't really want to, but I'm sorry. After almost 25 years, I no longer know what my reaction exactly was. I do know that Dave came up with a nice proposal. He was sorry that we broke up, and we went to Amsterdam the next day to have a good time. Dude, imagine living near to Amsterdam. Yeah, it's like Breakup City. You just get in a car, go down, park up. Dude, and I don't mean for the obvious red light reasons. I don't mean that. Anyway, dawn of the second day. Off to Amsterdam we go. During the train ride, Dave and I first discussed breaking up with Ginger, but soon we talked about Warcraft. We both often played the game online, he with humans and I with orcs. Once in Amsterdam, a few activities remain in my memory. I can remember but one thing. We passed by a games workshop. We both didn't know what it was and we went inside. We were soon escorted to a table where demos were given. The starting set at the time was Orcs versus Empire. Of course, you can guess which one Dave played and which one I played. It was an exciting game. Dave's cannon did a lot of damage and many Orcs ran away or fell dead. What won me the game was the Orc chariot coming into the flanks and breaking a unit by unit. We went home later that day and mostly talked about our Warhammer battle on the terrain. Once home, I of course started up Warcraft 3 again. In my mind, the Warcraft Orcs were Warhammer Orcs, but too bad Warcraft did not have a chariot. Okay, fair enough. Suddenly, I heard an MSN bell ringing. I had a suspicion, given the time of day, that it was Ginger. I didn't respond immediately. Let's just finish the current game. She can wait. I did indeed see several messages from Ginger on MSN. One of them is with a happy face that she had some good news. When I asked what it was, she said, "I misunderstood my mother. I didn't have to break up with you. Will we see each other again tomorrow?" Before I answered, Warhammer came to mind. I had had a lot of fun that day with Dave. I thought this new hobby would be more fun than continuing on with Ginger. I could therefore only give one answer. No. You made your decision and chose to break up with me online. That is very low of you, and I can no longer trust you anymore. I didn't tell her that Warhammer played a role in this, but there we go. The one day of being single taught me one thing. It's better to have fun single than continue with a relationship that doesn't get anywhere. Once trust is gone, there is no glue that can fix that. What glue can do is putting my orcs together. And so it started. Warhammer has been a part of my life since that day, and is now one of my biggest hobbies. It took me a while to find a local club, however, it started that day. Cheers, John. Yeah, I mean, I had a very similar feeling earlier on this week, where I was like, do I do a video or do I not do a video? And I said it in my statement when I said, look, I don't really want to do a video this week, on Wednesday, because I said, look, no Hobby Nightmares is better than bad Hobby Nightmares, and if I'm going to sit here like really low on energy, it's not really something I should be doing, right? I think you've had a very similar takeaway from your relationship there. You know? You may as well not be in a relationship if it's bad and making you miserable. It's better off being single. A lot of people are afraid of being single. Don't be. Right? If a relationship isn't working for you, go your own way, man. Just go your own way. Alright? Just because... I wish I'd have known that in the past, but again, I also think that I wouldn't have ended up in the relationship that I'm in now if I had not learnt those lessons. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, whatever. Moving on. Lone Star is next. I wonder if he's from Texas. We'll see. What's going on, North, he says. Hope this finds you well and appreciate what you do for the community. Thank you very much, sir. You can call me Lone Star. That's my Discord handle. Here be the story. You can use it for a video if you want. Well, I am, so congratulations. So this was a few years back. The end of 8th edition and the beginning of 9th in Warhammer 40,000. This was a friend of mine who played Salamanders and still does. And he told me about the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. I dived headfirst into Black Library books and listened to audiobooks of Warhammer 40k after Disney ruined Star Wars with those crappy movies. The universe was awesome, and the stories actually had real stakes if the character died in horrifically brutal fashion or not. So, after reading through, I decided to eventually buy and paint up some Dark Angels, in their Horus Heresy paint scheme. The knightly look, the secret Knights of the Round Table vibe, and the hoods on the armour had me sold. I had all the special characters, Azrael, Asmodai, Belial, Samiel, Ezekiel, etc., with units to go with them. Deathwing Knights, Dark Knights, Hellblasters, etc. Dude, I need to say this. The original colour scheme of black, white, and red, mwah, chef's kit. Brilliant. Gorgeous. Love it. After assembling and painting, I texted in my local hobby store's Discord server if anybody wanted to play against a noob for a 2,000 point game. This was after getting some 1,000 point games in on Tabletop Simulator. A guy in the chat said sure, and we set a date and time. I showed up with my Dark Angels, and, as the title suggests, my opponent brought World Eaters. I haven't forgotten the list till this day. Let's read it out. Oh, a full list. Let's read it out. World Eaters players, ears open, please. Is this kind of overpowered to take to a normal game with a newbie in 8th to 9th edition? Let me know. All right, let's read it out. 1. Kharn the Betrayer. 2. Lord Discordants on Hellstalkers. 2. Demon Princes with Wings. 2. 20-man units of Khorne Berserkers. 2. Mauler Fiends. 3. Chaos Predator Annihilators, the ones with las cannons. 2. Helldrakes. And 2. Termixes with assault drills. I assume that means Terminators with assault drills, right? Yeah. And that is his list. I got tabled and beaten so hard due to the fact that this guy had apparently lied about his army rules. For one, he lied about not being able to deep strike on turn 1, but also getting +2 to charge rules, so he only needed a 7-inch to charge out of deep strike. To top it off, he also told me that because he was World Eaters, he couldn't be shot at. What? Alright, guys. There comes a point when you do this to yourself. If your opponent says, because I'm World Eaters, you cannot shoot at me, why aren't you querying that? Alright? That's like walking down the street and somebody going, yeah, I think you'll find the sky is made of glue. And you go, oh, okay. I accept that. Let's carry on with the rest of my day. No, dude. Of course it's not. It's silly. After many charges, I was tabled with not a shot fired from me turn 1. After a game like that, I kind of got down in mully grubs about the game and gave my army to a friend of mine who needed some massively into the hobby. What? Who had just got some... Dude, read your stuff before you send it in. Alright. I gave my models to a friend of mine who was massively into the hobby and needed some new models to start with for Horus Heresy. Right, good. I come to find out way later on, he was way over 2,000 points in the game, and as aforementioned, was cheating. But I kind of lost interest in the hobby side of Warhammer for a while. Yeah, I don't blame you, right? I blame you for not rereading your work, but I don't blame you for... that did seem like a very big list for 2,000 points. That and cheating, I can see why you'd walk away. Which is why I always say as part of Hobby Nightmares, guys, you've got to be so careful the way that you act with new players. Absolutely be careful. Because, like, oh dear. Like, oh dear. Not good at all. Absolutely not. Fast forward to the beginning of 10th edition, I'm starting to get back into the swing of things. After having a read about them, their Primarch and their character, I've started painting and collecting Celestial Lions, the proud Sons of Dawn. Sorry if the story wasn't all that, and a bag of chips or particularly long. What? Have a good one, Lone Star. Cheers, man. Dude, like, some of your turns of phrase are odd. Anyway. Yeah, be very careful about how you approach newbies in 40k. Again, play with them, dude. That sounds really wrong. But you know what I mean? Like, have fun, play games, absolutely, bring more people into the hobby. Yeah, I absolutely think that is a thing you should be doing. But, at the end of the day, also, don't cheat, right? Don't make this person's first interaction with the hobby be negative because of you. You bear a tremendous responsibility if you're playing with new people in the hobby. You know? Have fun with it, but still. Anyway, Who is next we have here? It is Sam, the bourbon-sipping Space Wolves guy. Okay, cool. He says, Dear North, this is Sam, the bourbon-sipping Goodwill Space Wolf ambassador, coming to you with a much more harrowing hobby nightmare. I want to give fair warning that this hobby nightmare does mention a real-life homicide. Ooh, really? If by discretion you decide not to read it, I fully understand. No, I'm in. I'm all in. While I would normally refer to the subject of this nightmare as Jensen, I would rather keep the name Jensen to just bad gamers and not full-on psychopaths, I agree. So in this case, I will refer to him as Saravok. I was thinking of calling him Baal, as in the Lord of Murder from the Forgotten Realms, but I didn't want to mix any up with Blood Angel's homeworld, so let's move on. Yeah, Saravok. Saravok Anchev. Cool character, but probably not a cool person in this hobby nightmare. Saravok, right out of the gate, was doing all of the things your typical Jensen would do. He would pull rules right from out of his ass at the most opportune times and moments. He would tailor his lists to perfectly counter his opponents, and get all fussy when nobody was buying his BS, all while gaslighting his opponents in return. He loved playing Imperial Knights, not because of looks or lore, but solely for the stat checking. Saravok would bring his half-assembled and mostly unpainted models to run them as either Imperial or Chaos, depending on which rules suited him at the time. Dude, this is like the worst hobbyist. I often think, like, I did an interview the other day with Greg from Little Wars, and I can only think that guys like that, who are of that age, just read about dudes like this who bring half an Imperial Knight to a battle. And, like, it might be Chaos, it might be Loyalist, I don't know, which one's better against you, okay, it'll be that one. You know, and they must, like, their toes must curl. I have two instances with Saravok before I put him on my not to game with list. The first was bringing a single Questorus Knight to a 500-point Crusade game. Needless to say, I lost, but with the league organizer's blessing, I didn't record that game in the records. The second, which made me put him on my list, was a standard 2,000-point game of my Space Wolves versus his then Chaos Knights. It was early on in the second game, and at one point, one of his Questorus Knights found itself in clear view of my Ballistus Dreadnought and Gladiator Lancer, all while in easy charge distance of my Thunderwolf Cavalry. It looked like an easy case, because my two main anti-tank vehicles tearing a massive chunk out of the Knight, whilst my Wolf Lord with his Power Fist would peel the last few wounds off of it. Okay, I said, I'm declaring Oath of Moment on your Rampager, I said, as Saravok gave me the acknowledgement. Alright, first I'm going to shoot it with my Gladiator. You cannot shoot at him, Saravok said, as he cut me off. Well, how come? I replied. He's behind that terrain, Saravok said, as he pointed out some very light terrain that wasn't even 3 inches high, that both my vehicles could easily draw a line of sight over to the Titanic model standing over it. Wow. Well, I never had this come up in the other games against Knights when this terrain, and even then, we should have discussed that before the beginning of the battle, man. I think I can still shoot at him, I replied, all the while giving him a, are you fucking serious look. Needless to say, the game pretty much ended there. I gave him the rest of the round just out of some small benefit of the doubt, but seeing how that ruling left his knight free to tear up the rest of the board, I could tell he pulled it right out of his ass. I declared the game over, packed up my army, and put him on the no-play list. It turned out he's been doing this with other gamers in the store, and word had got around. You did the right thing, man. If you're not going to stick to your guns, your 1A is stick to your guns. Right? Stick to your guns, don't let them get away with it. Grind the game to a halt. I'm not carrying on playing this game until you take back that ridiculous ruling, dude. I will concede right now. I may as well. Right? Ruin the game for him. I concede right now. I may as well. And I will not play you again. What a ridiculous ruling. You're not playing the game in good faith. So, sorry, no. But failing that, you did the right thing. You're polite about it, and you quietly put him on the no playlist. Fair enough. But now you've got to stick to it. And they're going to stick to it. Eventually, Saravok's tomfoolery caught up with him, and he got busted cheating at the store's Rogue Trader tournament, which got him a 6-month ban from tournaments. After that incident, he became rather inactive on the gaming store's Discord server, and only once in a few blue moons would walk in briefly to get some base hobby supplies and then walk out again. There would be no conversation with him. It seemed as though he was shamed out of the store because of his shenanigans. Now, of the few times he came in, I noticed he had a semi-auto pistol openly holstered. This at first glance is no big deal, as a lot of regulars, including myself, happen to carry. Dude, this would freak me out. I know I'm British, this should freak me the fuck out. If you got somebody with erratic behaviour and he has a semi-automatic pistol openly holstered on him, like that would just... I think this is a good place for you to sip your tea, whilst I sip on some Evan Williams with Coke Zero. Dude, you're such Texas. You are literally walking Texas right now. What is going on? I haven't seen Saravok come into my local gaming store since late summer, and by then, the guy was completely out of my mind until today. I was chatting with some other players about another Jensen, which led me to bring up Saravok. That's when one of the other guys dropped the news. It turned out, Saravok is currently in jail for shooting a homeless man that was all captured on video from a residential camera. While he was of some ill character, I found it hard to believe and had to have confirmation. So I did a Google search, and one of my local news stations had the article complete with his mugshot, footage of the arrangement, and the actual video. From what the article told me, Saravok was out one night for undisclosed reasons, got into an argument with his victim, and shot him 10 times. Dude, your skin must have crawled. Can you imagine pushing the goat with this guy over a game of toy soldiers and he shoots you? Clearly he had it in him. Right? Dude. You must have felt somebody walking over your grave at that point. Can you imagine getting into a full-blown argument over toy bloody soldiers in a store? And he snaps. I know you can defend yourself, you're carrying as well, but... shit, man. It would have been one thing if he was suddenly accosted and in a panic state put 1 or 2 rounds in his assailant, but to not only empty a whole magazine after an exchange of words, but also pick up the casings after the horrific deed, that's just flat out murder. If I had a suspicion, he was intentionally looking to get into a situation that would escalate to where he could play out a vigilante fantasy. Sadly, at the cost of a person's life. Saravok learned that he's not a Charles Bronson or Clint Eastwood character. The 21-year-old Saravok will have most of, if not all of his life to think about that in a can. Wish I could have more of a takeaway from the nightmare other than to be careful who you have in your hobby circle, but it's hard to say in such a 0 to 100 situation like that one I described. However, I will say that as both a gun carrier and owner and trained martial artist, is that one needs to be as much disciplined in knowing when not to use force outside of justification or else, or you'll just be like Saravok. Dude, that's completely true. There is the most zen people I know, and I've said this so many times. The most zen dudes I know are martial artists. Right? Bear in mind, I only know 2. Right? So that's, just a full disclaimer there. But they are the most zen, calm people I know. And they both say the same thing. Most of your issues and worries go out of your head when a big man's trying to choke you out. Yeah? You learn very quickly that you're not the hardest guy in the room. And, and you learn very quickly what actual force feels like, and you develop a much higher respect for it, and so you don't use it. You use it as a much last resort. It'd be one of my friends, alright, his name's Ricardo, right, he's Brazilian, so, don't judge him. So we call him Rick, but anyway, he literally has nightmares about fighting somebody in the street. Now, this guy's like a black belt. I think it's like 3rd Dan or whatever it is. Like, this guy, he's won national competitions, right? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever, right? He's won competitions. He has nightmares about getting into a fight on the street, literal nightmares. He wakes up in cold sweats. He's not highly trained in it, like, it's muscle memory for him. And he's terrified of hurting people, because he knows how much damage he can do, if he actually went for it. It's those guys who I would trust to be around all of the time. No problem, right? Like guys like Sam here, right? Who carries, but he knows the responsibility he bears by doing that. That's the kind of guy I'd want to be around. But you always run the risk of a Saravok. You always run the risk of a guy learning some skills or buying a weapon and not having the discipline and being this mentally retarded person who just snaps and somebody loses their life, right? It's not so close, dude. Like it's such a thorny issue in the US. What do you guys think? What do you guys think on that issue of having weapons and things in the US? Do you agree with it? Do you not? Let me know in the comment section down below. I don't live in the US, so I as somebody who's lived over there, I'm very protective over you guys having your right to decide what you want. And I think the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are beautiful things that I would love to have in the UK. So I'm very, very protective of your rights and freedoms. Like I literally think it's the most amazing thing that you've got over there. So I don't pass comment. I really hate it when people in the UK say, get rid of all guns in the US. No, you're a moron, mate. You live in Skegness, right? Or wherever the fucking hell else you live in the UK. Okay, you don't get an opinion, number one. You just don't. Because you haven't lived it, you haven't been over there, right? And number two, their entire country is built around the freedoms that we don't have over in this country. So you're like a sheep bleating for the slaughter, is what you're. You're a turkey campaigning for Christmas. Get rid of all guns. No, dude. Like there's a reason why that's written into the Constitution, man. Right? But on the flip side of things, I understand why people would be, oh my god, the Saravoks of this world, keep them away from all types of weapons. I agree. It's a thorny issue, man. That's why I don't pass comment on it. I don't live there. This is your country that and I've lived there, and I know how it is in different cities and what people think. The US is such an amazingly interesting country, dude. It really is. As an experiment, it's like an experiment that's gone out of hand, but it's so interesting. So, what do you guys think in terms of don't get on your high horse and stop wagging your finger if you're from the UK, by the way. In terms of rights that we have, our country's fucking shit. So don't wag your finger at Americans saying, oh, well, you've got guns, it's terrible. Dude, shut up. You don't know. Alright? I will stick up for them on that point. You don't know. You don't live there. You don't know the situation. You don't know what's going on. You don't know why these things exist. Don't pass comments on other countries unless you've been there, lived it. And even I've been there and I've lived it, and I still don't pass comment. So shut up. Essentially, keep your mouth shut, right? In terms of being snooty about it, but give you 10 pennies worth, no problem. So here's what I think about why gun control is important, or why you're having guns is important. Let me know in the comment section. I'm absolutely interested to know what the hell you think. And Americans, awesome. Get in the comment section. Let me know. Are you afraid of a guy like Saravok getting hold of a weapon or things like that? It's incredible how Hobby Nightmares sometimes brings this out, and we have these conversations, so let's do so in the comment section. Anyway, this is my rather harrowing tale. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavours from here on out. I wish I could be at Exile Fest in June, but the current airfare over the pond is a bit out of my current budget. Yeah, I'm not surprised, mate. Don't worry about it. Hopefully the fest will be around when me and my wife go on our ancestral pilgrimage throughout the British Isles. Sincerely, Sam, the bourbon-sipping Space Wolf ambassador. Cheers, man. Yeah, but hopefully you are. That'd be really, really cool. If Exile Fest goes well in June, I may do one in the US eventually. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. That is something that's in my mind. But anyway, I love you a long time. I will speak to you on Sunday for some... No, I won't. It's my birthday on Sunday, so I won't speak to you on Sunday. I will speak to you on Monday for some more Hobby Nightmares, and I'll be back the following Sunday for some more Legion rewrites, where we're going to be rewriting the World Eaters and Angron. Ooh, that's going to be good. All right, I love you a long time. Speak to you soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day and your weekend, and have a good one. All right, stay safe. Bye now.